Hello students, welcome to the PD Life Science Academy for the Happy Learning. NEET एक्झामचे प्रिपरेशन जे विद्यार्थी करत आहेत त्यांच्यासाठी बेसिक कन्सेप्ट लर्निंग आणि लिंकिंग ऑफ कन्सेप्ट हे जेवढे गरजेचे आहे तेवढेच NCERT बुकमधील चॅप्टरचे कंटेंट रीड करणे आवश्यक आहे. हे करत असताना फक्त एक रीडिंग करून चालणार नाही, मल्टिपल टाइम्स रिव्हिजन होणे गरजेचे आहे. यात टाळाटाळ करणे चांगले नव्हे. आपण सेट केलेले टार्गेट अचीव करण्यासाठी PD लाईफ सायन्स अकॅडमीने सर्व स्टुडंटसाठी जे नीट एक्झामचे प्रिपरेशन करीत आहेत त्यांच्यासाठी 21 डे रीडिंग चॅलेंजची सुरुवात केली आहे. रोज एका चॅप्टरचे रीडिंग आपण कंप्लीट करणार आहोत. हे चॅलेंज ज्या विद्यार्थ्यांनी ॲक्सेप्ट केले आहे त्यांनी त्यांचे डेली टार्गेट अचीव केल्यावर कॉमेंट करून सांगायचे आहे. सो लेट्स गेट रेडी फॉर टेकिंग रीडिंग चॅलेंज. ऑल द व्हेरी बेस्ट. थँक यू. Biology Reading Challenge, Day 22 Reading Challenge, Chapter number 22 from NCERT Biology textbook of 11th Standard. Name of chapter is a Chemical Coordination and the Integration. You have already learned that the neural system provides the point-to-point rapid coordination among the organs. The neural coordination is a fast but a short-lived, as the nerve fibers do not innervates all the cell of the body, and the cellular function needs to continuously regulate. A special kind of the coordination and the integration has to be provided. This function is carried out by the hormones. The neural system and the endocrine system jointly coordinate and regulate the physiological function in the body. The endocrine gland 22.1 is the endocrine gland and the hormones. Endocrine gland lacks duct and hence called as the ductless glands. Their secretions are called as the hormones. The classified definition of the hormone as a chemical produced by the endocrine gland and the release into the blood and the transport of the distantly located target organs has a current scientific definition as follows. The hormone are the non-nutrient chemicals which act as an intercellular messenger and are produced in the trace amount. The new definition covered a number of the new molecules in addition to the hormones secreted by the organized endocrine gland. The invertebrate possess the very simple endocrine system which with a few hormones, whereas the large number of the chemicals that hormone and provides the coordination in the vertebrate. The human endocrine system is described here. The 22.2 is a human endocrine system. The endocrine gland and the hormones producing the diffuse tissues or the cell located in the different parts of our body constitute the endocrine system. Pituitary and the pineal, thyroid, adrenal, pancreas, parathyroid, thymus and the gonads. Testes in the males and the ovaries in the female are the organized endocrine bodies in our body. In addition to these, some other organs, for example the gastrointestinal tract, liver, kidney, heart, also produce the hormones. A brief account of the structure and the function of all major endocrine glands and the hypothalamus of the human body is given in the following aspects. The 22.2.1 is a hypothalamus. As you know, the hypothalamus is the basal part of the diencephalon forebrain and it regulates the wide spectrum of the body function. It contains the several groups of the neurosecretory cells called as a nuclei which produce the hormones. These hormones regulate the synthesis and the secretion of the pituitary hormones. However, the hormone produced by the hypothalamus are of the two types: releasing hormone which stimulate the secretion of the pituitary hormone and the inhibiting the hormones or which inhibit the secretion of the pituitary hormone. For example, the hypothalamic hormone called as a gonadotropin releasing hormone, that is the GnRH, stimulate the pituitary signal synthesis and release the gonadotropin. On the other hand, the somatostatin from the hypothalamus inhibit the release of the growth hormone from the pituitary. This hormone originates in the hypothalamic neuron, passes through the axon and release from the nerve ending. This hormone reach the pituitary glands through the portal circulatory system and regulate the function of the anterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary is under the direct neural regulate the hypothalamus. The 22.2.2 is the pituitary glands. The pituitary gland is located in the bony cavity called as a sella turcica and attached to the hypothalamus is a stalk. It is divided autonomically into the adenohypophysis and the neurohypophysis. The adenohypophysis consists of the two portions, the pars distalis and the pars intermedia. The pars distalis region of the pituitary, commonly called as the anterior pituitary, and produces the growth hormone GH, the prolactin PRL, thyroid stimulating hormone that is the TSH, the adrenocorticotropic hormone that is the ACTH, the luteinizing hormone that is the LH, follicle stimulating hormone FSH. The pars intermedia secrete only one hormone called as a melanocyte stimulating hormone that is the MSH. However, the pars intermedia is almost merged with the pars distalis. The neurohypophysis or a pars nervosa, also known as the posterior pituitary, and store and release the two hormones called as oxytocin and the vasopressin, which are actually synthesized by the hypothalamus and transported axonally to the neurohypophysis. Over a secretion of the GH or the growth hormone stimulate the abnormal growth of the body, leading to the gigantium, and the low secretion of the growth hormone result in the stunted growth, resulting in the pituitary dwarfism. Excess secretion of the growth hormone in adult, especially in the middle age, can result in the several disfigurement or especially of the face called as acromegaly, then which may lead to the serious complications, the premature death of the unchecked. The disease of the hard to the diagnose in the early stage and often goes the undetected for the many years, the until change in the external features because of the noticeable. The prolactin regulates the growth of the mammary glands and the formation of the milk in them. The TSH stimulates the synthesis and the secretion of the thyroid hormone from the thyroid gland. The ACTH stimulates the synthesis and the secretion of the steroid hormone called as glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. The LH and the FSH stimulate the gonadotropin activity and hence is called as a gonadotropin. In male, the LH stimulate the synthesis and the secretion of the hormone called as adrenogen from the testes. In the male, the FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and the adrenogen and androgen regulate the spermatogenesis. In female, the LH induces the ovulation of fully mature follicle, that is the Graafian follicle, and maintain the corpus luteum, the form from the remnant of the Graafian follicle. After ovulation, the FSH stimulate the growth and the development of the ovarian follicle in the female. MSH acts on the melanocytes or melanin containing cells and regulates the pigmentation of the skin. Oxytocin acts as a smooth muscle of our body and stimulate their contraction. In female, it stimulates a vigorous contraction of the uterus at the time of the childbirth and the milk ejection from the mammary glands. Vasopressin act mainly at the kidney and stimulate the resorption of the water and electrolyte by the distal tubule, and thereby reduce the loss of the water through the urine or a diuresis. Hence it is called as an antidiuretic hormone, that is the ADH. And impairment affecting synthesis or a release of the ADH result in the diminished ability of the kidney to conserve the water, leading to the water loss and the dehydration. And this condition is known as a diabetes or the insipidus. 22.2.3 is a pineal gland. The pineal gland is located on the dorsal sides of the forebrain. The pineal secretes the hormone called as a melatonin. The melatonin plays a very important role in the regulation of the 24-hour or a diurnal rhythm of our body. For example, it helps in maintaining the normal rhythm of the sleep and the wake-up cycle and wake cycle, the body temperature. In addition, the melatonin is influence the metabolism, pigmentation, and the menstrual cycle as well as our defense capabilities. 22.2.4 is a thyroid glands. The thyroid gland is composed of the two lobes which are located on either side of the trachea. Both the lobes and the interconnected with the thin flap connective tissues called as the isthmus. The thyroid glands is composed of the follicle and the stroma tissues. Each thyroid follicle is composed of the follicular cell enclosing the cavity. The follicle cell synthesizes two hormones, the thyronin and the thyroxine, that is the T4, and the triiodothyronin, that is the T3. The iodine is essential for the normal rate of the hormone synthesis in the thyroid. The deficiency of the iodine in our diet result in the hypothyroidism and the enlargement of the thyroid gland, commonly called as a goiters. The hypothyroidism during the pregnancy causes the defective development and the maturation of the growing baby, leading to the stunted growth, that is the cretinism, and the mental retardation, low intelligence quotient, and abnormal skin, the deaf mutism, etc. The adult woman hypothyroidism may cause the menstrual cycle to become the irregular due to cancer of the thyroid glands or due to the development of the nodule of the thyroid glands. The rate of the synthesis and the secretion of the thyroid hormone is increased to the abnormal high level, leading to the conditions that hypothyroidism, which diverse affects the body physiology. The exophthalmic goiter. The exophthalmic goiter is a form of the hypothyroidism and characterized by the enlargement of the thyroid gland, protrusion of the eyeballs, increase the basal metabolic rate, and the weight loss, also called as Graves' disease. The thyroid hormone play an important role in the regulation of the basal metabolic rate. These hormones also support the process of the red blood cells formation. The thyroid hormone control the metabolism of the carbohydrate, proteins, and the fats. Maintenance of the water and the electrolyte balance is also the influence by the thyroid hormone. The thyroid glands is secreted a protein hormone called as the thyrocalcitonin, that is the TCT, which regulate the blood calcium level. The 22.2.5 is the parathyroid glands. In human, the four parathyroid glands are present on the back side of the thyroid glands. One pair each in the two lobes of the thyroid glands. The parathyroid glands secrete the peptide hormone called as a parathyroid hormone, that is the PTH, and secretion of the PTH regulates by the circulating the level of the calcium ion. The parathyroid hormone, that is the PTH, increase the calcium level in the blood, and the PTH act on the bones and stimulate the bones of the process of the bone reabsorption, resorption, or a dissolution or a demineralization. The PTH also stimulate the reabsorption of the calcium by the renal tubule and increase the calcium absorption from the digested food. It is thus clear that the PTH and the hypercalcemic hormones, that is it increase the blood calcium level. Along with the TCT, it plays the significant role in the calcium balance in the body. The 22.2.6 is the thymus. The thymus gland is a lobular structure located between the lungs behind the sternum of the ventral side of the aorta. The thymus play a major role in the development of the immune system. The gland secrete the peptide hormone called as the thymosin. Thymosin plays a major role in the differentiation of the T lymphocyte, which provide the cell-mediated immunity. In addition, the thymosin also promotes the production of the antibodies to produce the hormonal immunity. The thymus is degenerated in old individual, resulting in the decrease the production of the thymosin. As a result, the immune responses of the old person becomes the weak. The 22.2.7 is the adrenal gland. Our body has one pair of the adrenal gland, one of the another one at the anterior parts of each kidney, and the gland is composed of two types of the tissue. The centrally located tissue is called as the adrenal medulla, and the outside this lies as the adrenal cortex. The under production of the hormone by the adrenal cortex alters the carbohydrate metabolism, causing the acute weakness and the fatigue, leading to the disease called as Addison diseases. The adrenal medulla secrete the two hormones called as adrenaline or epinephrine, and the norepinephrine, noradrenaline or norepinephrine. These are the commonly called as catecholamines. The adrenaline and the noradrenaline are the rapidly secreted in response to the stress of the any kinds of the during the emergency situation, and are called as the emergency hormone or a hormone of the fight or flight. These hormone increase the alertness, pupillary dilation or a piloerection, rising of the hairs, the sweating, etc. Both the hormone increase the heartbeat and the strength of the heart contraction and the rate of the respiration. Catecholamines also stimulate the breakdown of the glycogen, resulting in the increase in the concentration of the glucose in the blood. In addition, they also stimulate the breakdown of the lipid and the proteins. The adrenal cortex can be divided into the three layers called as a zona reticularis, that is the inner layer, zona fasciculata, that is the middle layer, and the zona glomerulosa, that is the outer layer. The adrenal cortex secrete the many hormones, the commonly called as the corticoids. The corticoids which are the involved in the carbohydrate metabolism and are called as the glucocorticoids. In our body, the cortisol is a main glucocorticoids. The corticoids which regulate the balance of the water and the electrolyte in our body are called as mineralocorticoids. The aldosterone is the main mineralocorticoids in our body. The glucocorticoids stimulate the gluconeogenesis, lipolysis and the proteolysis, and inhibit the cellular uptake and the utilization of the amino acid. Cortisol is also involved in the maintaining the cardiovascular system as well as the kidney function. The glucocorticoids, or the particularly cortisol, produces the anti-inflammatory reactions and suppresses the immune responses, that is the cortisol stimulate the RBCs production. Aldosterone act mainly at a renal tubule and stimulate the reabsorption of the sodium and the water excretion of the potassium and the phosphate ions. Thus, the aldosterone help in the maintaining the electrolyte and the body fluid volume. The osmotic process or a blood pressure. Small amount of the adrenogen steroids are also secreted by the adrenal cortex, which play a role in the growth of the axial hair or a pubic hair and a facial hair during the puberty. The 22.2.8 is a pancreas. Pancreas is a composite gland which act as a both exocrine and endocrine gland. Endocrine gland the endocrine pancreas consists of the isolate of Langerhans. There are about 1 to 2 million isolates of Langerhans, and in normal human pancreas representing only the 1 to 2% of the pancreatic tissue. The two main types of the cells of the isolate of Langerhans are the alpha cell and beta cell. Alpha cell secrete the hormone called as a glucagon, and while the beta cell secrete the insulin. The glucagon is a peptide hormone and plays an important role in the maintaining the normal blood glucose level. Glucagon act mainly on the liver cells, that is the hepatocyte, or stimulate the glycogenolysis. resulting in and the increase the blood sugar, that is the hyperglycemia. In addition, these hormones stimulate the process of the gluconeogenesis, which also contribute to the hyperglycemia. The glucagon reduce the cellular glucose uptake and the utilization. Thus, the glucagon is the hyperglycemic hormones. The insulin is the peptide hormone which play a major role in the regulation of the glucose homeostasis. Insulin act mainly on the hepatocytes and the adipocytes cell of the adipose tissues and enhance the cellular glucose uptake and the utilization. As a result, there is a rapid movement of the glucose from the blood to the hepatocyte and the adipocytes, resulting in the decrease the blood glucose level, that is the hypoglycemia. The insulin also stimulates the conversion of the glucose to the glycogen or glycogenesis in the target cells. The glucose homeostasis in the blood is thus maintained jointly by the two insulin and the glucagon. The prolonged hyperglycemia leads to the complex disorder called as a diabetes mellitus, which is associated with the loss of the glucose through the urine and the formation of the harmful compound known as a ketone bodies. The diabetic patients are successfully treated with the insulin therapy. 22.2.9 is the testis. The pair of the testis is present in the scrotal sac, that is outside the abdomen of the male individual. The testis perform the dual function as a primary sex organ as well as the endocrine system. The testis is composed of the seminiferous tubule and the stromal or interstitial tissues. The Leydig cells or interstitial cell which are present in the intertubular space produce a group of the hormone called as adrenogen, mainly the testosterone. Adrenogen regulate the development, maturation and the function of the male accessory sex organs called as epididymis, vasa deferens, seminal vesicle and the prostate glands, urethra, etc. These hormones stimulates the muscular growth and the growth of the facial and the axillary hairs, the aggressiveness, low pitch of the voice, etc. The adrenogen play a major role stimulatory role in the process of the spermatogenesis, that is the formation of the spermatozoa. Androgens acts as a central neural system and influence the male sexual behavior, that is the libido. These hormones produce the anabolic synthetic effect on the protein and the carbohydrate metabolism. The 22.2.10 is a ovary. The female have a pair of the ovaries located in the abdomen. Ovary is a primarily female sex organ which produce the 1 ovum during each menstrual cycle. In addition, the ovary also produce the two groups of the steroid hormone called as the estrogen and the progesterone. Ovary is composed of the ovarian follicle and the stromal tissues, and the estrogen is synthesized and secreted mainly by the growing the ovarian follicle. After ovulation, the rupture follicle is converted to the structure called as a corpus luteus and secreted mainly the progesterone. Estrogen produces the wide range of the action such as the stimulation of the growth and activities of the female secondary sex organ, development of the growing ovaries, ovarian follicle and appearance of the female secondary sex characters. For example, the high pitch of the voice and the mammary glands development. Estrogen also regulate the female sexual behavior. The progesterone support the pregnancy and the progesterone also act as a mammary gland and stimulate the formation of the alveoli, that is the sac-like structure which store the milk and the milk secretion. The 22.3 is the hormone of the heart and kidney and the gastrointestinal tract. Now you know about the endocrine gland and their hormones. However, the mentioned earlier, the hormones are also secreted by the some tissues which are not endocrine glands, and for example, the atrial wall of our heart secrete a very important peptide hormone called as a atrial natriuretic factor, that is the ANF, which decrease the blood pressure, and when the blood pressure is decreased, the ANF is secreted which causes the dilation of the blood vessels vessels, and this reduces the blood pressure. The juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney produces the peptide hormone called as the erythropoietin, which stimulates the erythropoiesis formation of the RBCs. The endocrine cell present in the different parts of the gastrointestinal tract secrete the four major peptide hormone, namely the gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, that is the CCK, and a gastric inhibitory peptide, that is the GIP. The gastric act on the gastric glands and stimulate the secretion of the hypochloric acid and the pepsinogen. The secretin acts on the exocrine pancreas and stimulate the secretion of the water and the bicarbonate ion. The CCK acts on both the pancreas and the gallbladder and stimulate the secretion of the pancreatic enzyme and the bile juice respectively. GIP inhibits the gastric secretion and the motility. The several other non-endocrine tissues secrete the hormone called as a growth factors, and these factors essentially for the normal growth of the tissues and their repairing or a regeneration. The 22.4 is a mechanism of the hormone action. The hormone produce their effects on the target tissues by binding to the specific protein called as a hormone receptor located in the target tissues only. Hormone receptor present on the cell membrane and the target cells are called as a membrane bound receptor, and the receptor present inside the target cell are called as a intracellular receptor. Mostly the nuclear receptor present in the nucleus. The binding of the hormone to its receptor leads to the formation of the hormone receptor complex. Each receptor is specific to one hormone only, and hence receptor are the specific. The hormone receptor complex formation leads to the certain biochemical changes in the target tissues. The target tissue metabolism and hence the physiological function are regulated by the hormone. On the basis of their chemical nature, the hormone can be divided into the groups. The one is a peptide, polypeptide, and the protein hormone. For example, the insulin, glucagon, pituitary glands, pituitary hormones, and the hypothalamic hormone. Then second is the steroids. For example, the cortisol, testosterone, estradiol, and progesterone. Then the idiothyronins are the thyroid hormone. Then amino acid derivatives are the epinephrine. Hormone which interacts with the membrane bound receptor normally do not enter the target cell, but generally second messenger. For example, the cyclic AMP, IP3, calcium, etc., which regulate the cellular metabolism. The hormone which interacts with the intracellular receptor, for example, the steroid hormone, idiothyroid, etc., mostly regulate the gene expression or a chromosome function by the interaction of the hormone receptor complex with the genome. Cumulative biochemical action result in the physiological and the developmental effect. Now the summary of the chemical coordination and the integration. There are the special chemical which act as a hormone and provides the chemical coordination, integration, and the regulation in the human body. These hormones regulate the metabolism, growth, development of our organs, the endocrine gland or a certain cells. Endocrine system is composed of the hypothalamus, pituitary, and the pineal, thyroid, adrenal, pancreas, parathyroid, thymus, and the gonad, that is the testes and ovaries. In addition to these, some other organs, for example the gastrointestinal tract, kidney, heart, etc., also produce the hormones. The pituitary gland is divided into the three major parts which are called as a pars distalis, pars intermedia, and pars nervosa. The pars distalis produce the 6 trophic hormones. The pars intermedia secrete only one hormone, while the pars nervosa is a neurohypophysis secrete the 2 hormones. The pituitary hormone regulates the growth and the development of the somatic tissues and activate the peripheral endocrine glands. The pineal gland secrete the melatonin, which plays a very important role in the regulation of the 24 hours the diurnal rhythm of our body. For example, the rhythm of the sleep and the state of the being the awake and the body temperature, etc. The thyroid gland hormone play an important role in the regulation of the basal metabolic rate, development, and the maturation of the central nervous system, central neural system, the erythropoiesis, metabolism of the carbohydrate, protein, and the fats, menstrual cycle. The another thyroid hormone, for example the thyrocalcitonin, regulate the calcium level in our body by decreasing it. The parathyroid glands secrete the parathyroid hormone, that is the PTH, which increase the blood calcium level and plays a major role in the calcium homeostasis. The thymus gland secrete the thymosin, which play a major role in the differentiation of the T lymphocyte, which provide the cell mediated immunity. In addition, the thymosin also increase the production and the antibodies produce the humoral immunity. The adrenal gland is composed of the centrally located adrenal medulla and the outer adrenal cortex. The adrenal medulla secrete the epinephrine and the norepinephrine. These hormone increase the alertness, pituitary dilation, piloerection and the sweating, heartbeat, strength of the heart contraction, rate of the respiration, glycogenolysis, lipolysis, proteolysis. The adrenal cortex secrete the glucocorticoids and the mineralocorticoids. The glucocorticoids stimulate the gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, proteolysis and the erythropoiesis, cardiovascular system, blood pressure and the glomerular filtration rate, and inhibit the inflammatory reaction by suppressing the immune responses. Mineralocorticoid or regulate the water and the electrolyte contents of the body. The endocrine pancreatic secretion, glucagon and insulin. The glucagon stimulate the glucogenolysis and the gluconeogenesis, resulting in the hyperglycemia. Insulin stimulate the cellular glucose uptake and the utilization. The glucogenesis, resulting in the hypoglycemia. Insulin deficiency or a insulin resistance result in the disease called as a diabetes mellitus. The testes secrete the adrenogen, which stimulate the development, maturation and the function of the male accessory sex organ, appearance of the male secondary sex character, the spermatogenesis, the male sexual behavior, anabolic pathways and the erythropoiesis. The ovaries secrete the estrogen and the progesterone. The estrogen stimulate the growth and the development of the female accessory sex organ and the secondary sex character. The progesterone play a major role in the maintenance of the pregnancy as well as in the mammary glands development and the lactation. The atrial wall of the heart produces the atrial natriuretic factor, which decrease the blood pressure. The kidney produces the erythropoietic, which stimulate the erythropoiesis. The gastrointestinal tract secrete the gastric secreting cholecystokinin and the gastric inhibitory peptide. This hormone regulate the secretion of the digestive juice and helps in the digestion. Thank you so much.